guys, we're going to take a look at the white paper. And so I'm here on the lob.net webpage again. Here's where you'll find a lot of information about Bitcoin, a whole lot, like too much information about Bitcoin. And what I want to focus on right now is just this section called the white paper, because that's what essentially describes what really Bitcoin is and what it's all about and how it really works. So I kind of want us to kind of read it today and just go over it just real quick. So I'm going to click on the white paper right here. And this is the original document that was produced back in 2009. I know it's not dated, but that was in 2009. And it's kind of crazy 13 years ago that someone will come up with something like that. So funny because I asked myself, what was I doing in 2009? And the answer is always the same. Like I was nowhere near understanding um, what what computer and basically security, like internet security, was like meant to me. Um, it was I was far, very, very far from the level of understanding of today versus in '09. I was lost. I could have never understood what this was all about. And I'm pretty sure so is a lot of people. So let's go ahead and kind of read the introduction, or at least the abstract real quick. So it's a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, okay? And that was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, okay? Cool. And this is the website we visited. This is where you can get all the basic information about Bitcoin, plain and simple. So abstract, it's a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash that would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. This is crazy. This is huge. This is huge. That really simply means that you don't have to go through a bank or rely on a bank, because those are the closest financial institutions that are closest to the people, to the masses, to you, to me, to everyone. We go to the bank to get cash. And it's kind of crazy for us to think that you don't have to go through the bank to get cash because there's no cash, because you don't need cash, because you're just going to use your phone. That's a little insane. And I'm not talking about tap to pay. But I digress. But let's keep going. Digital signatures provide part of the solution. We'll talk more about digital signatures later. But the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party, which is pretty much the bank or any other intermediary, is still required to prevent double spending. We'll talk more about what double spending is. It's basically when you spend money and then that same money that you just spent, you can still re-spend it again, like somewhere else. Right? That means that you got the same money back and you can re-spend it, spend it again like one more time somewhere else without your balance to decrease. That's pretty much defeating the purpose of a payment, all in all. But yeah, that's what double spending is. It's if Bitcoin was just something online, then it would be easy to just copy paste, things like that. So we propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer network. The network timestamps transactions by hashing them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work. I know it's a lot of technical terms here, but we'll get to it. Forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. The proof of work is essentially, I believe it'll be explained a little later what the proof of work is, and we'll get to it. So let's complete this. So the longest chain not only serves as a proof of sequence of events witnessed, but proof that it came from the largest pool of CPU power. As long as the majority of the CPU power is controlled by nodes that are not cooperating to attack the network, they'll generate the longest chain and outpace attackers. So it's a game theory, and the network itself requires minimal structure Messages are broadcast on a best effort basis, and nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof of work chain as proof what happened while they were gone. This is absolutely essentially, how can I summarize this? Is that um, uh, the miners have a function, and we'll talk about the miners a little later here, very soon actually. And the miners are the ones that move and kind of validate the transactions to make it uh, valid and then to kind of timestamp it in the blockchain. Um, and when you, or like, let's say I make a payment to you, it needs to be validated by pretty much everyone, um, but gradually though, but pretty much everyone. And as it's been validated, it's validated in something called a blockchain. So that's a whole list, like a huge list of all the transactions in the order that they were validated. And once it's validated, it cannot be changed. Once everyone agrees that, hey, this is a valid transaction, it cannot be changed. And essentially, um, they were saying that the goal here of this Bitcoin peer-to-peer electronic cash system is to create a blockchain um, that is immutable, unchangeable, and that even if there's a different blockchain that gets to be created in a sense of the same Bitcoin network, um, what will always win is the longest chain. It's basically the concept of here of it, as far as the blockchain is concerned, that the longest chain is the truth. It's what everyone should follow, the longest chain when it comes to it. And so let's read the introduction a little bit. Kind of want to explain a little bit more of what I was talking about when I meant blockchain, and you know what it is exactly and why the blockchain was introduced. Why create the blockchain? Why put the Bitcoin on the blockchain? So commerce on the internet has come to rely almost exclusively on financial institutions serving as trusted third parties to process electronic payments. This is the banking system and financial system that we already know. Um, and while the system works well enough for most transactions, it still suffers from the inherent weaknesses of the trust-based model, because we have to trust the bank to hold our money. When we get paid, we have to trust that the bank is not going to run away with our money. That's on a daily basis. When we make a payment, we have to trust that the bank will allow it, and that's, most people just never question it until they they will need to, if ever, right? Um, and completely non-reversible transactions are not really possible, since financial institutions cannot avoid mediating disputes. The cost of mediation increases transaction cost, limiting the minimum practical transaction size and cutting off the possibility for small casual transactions. And there's a broader cost in the loss of ability to make non-reversible payments for non-reversible services. With the possibility of reversal, the need for trust spreads. Merchants must be wary of the customers, asking them for more information than they would otherwise need. A certain percentage of fraud is accepted as unavoidable. So these cost and payment uncertainties can be avoided in person by using physical currency like cash, but no mechanism exists to make payments over a communications channel without a trusted party. So essentially, you can so when you make a payment using your credit card, like online, like using a credit card, when you use your credit card at the terminal, they have to essentially um, they have to take a risk, um, some sort of risk. Like the merchant has to take a risk. Like, what if the bank, uh, you know, take say yes to this transaction, but then later on you go and call the bank and say, hey, I didn't make this transaction. So I guess the bank can like reverse that transaction. Like they have that power of letting a transaction go through or not, for whatever reason, actually, good or not. And so there's always a risk of for a merchant to deal with you or anybody. Not only that, the merchant will have to pay a fee to the financial intermediaries, but also they will have to um, take a risk of not being paid by you when you make a payment, because you can always call the intermediary and say, hey, I never made this payment, and then the intermediary will reverse the transaction, and then the merchant doesn't get paid. So that's what it's all about here. Bitcoin's trying to remove that third party responsibility, that kind of screws everything essentially, without going too much into details. And what is needed now is talking about the purpose of Bitcoin. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing any two willing parties, like any two people, to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party, like a bank or financial institution that can say no or yes for any reason whatsoever. Transactions that are computationally impractical to reverse would protect sellers from fraud, the merchants, right? And routine escrow mechanisms could easily be implemented to protect buyers. In this paper, we propose a solution to the double spending problem. It's a big problem. Using a peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server to generate computational proof of the chronological order of transactions. In other words, a blockchain that has a historical transactions that happen throughout time, right? The system is secure as long as honest nodes collectively control more CPU power than any cooperating group of attacker nodes. We can probably stop right here, and this is pretty much the intro. Um, and so essentially, you guys understood. To kind of summarize everything here, Bitcoin is trying to solve a problem, and it's explaining what the problem was, and also that we are trusting third parties for everyday transactions, and they require information about us that are absolutely not necessary um, to make a transaction. And the goal and the solution to that Bitcoin brings up to the table is that they're trying to remove that centralized third party to make it more distributed, more consensus based, so that everyone agrees on transactions. And so when you make a transaction, it's absolutely irreversible, um, and it makes it true and valid. So whoever makes the transaction, you know, uh, as long as it's a valid transaction, that's all that really matters. So that's pretty much it for this intro. I think the next time we'll talk about more of we'll keep going with this Bitcoin white paper. Just kind of give you a heads up. It has 9 pages. It's 9 pages long. Yeah, you see on the left. It's 9 pages long, and we'll just go over those. There's a lot of technical information here, but I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. Again, the goal of Bitcoin is to really remove the intermediaries, the financial intermediaries that like a bank or financial institutions, to stay in the middle of a simple transaction. Like you trying to go get some bread, or you trying to go get some food at the store or anything, and nothing should be able to prevent that from happening. If you do have the funds, if the whole transaction is valid on both parties, there's nothing that should be able to stop it. No matter who we are, no matter what. Um, that's the goal. All right, thank you guys, and I hope this has been informative for you. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day or night or evening, wherever you are. Thank you. Bye bye.